Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Metaphysical. Staircases to nowhere have been spotted in national parks and woods around the world. But is there truth to the stories? What startling things have park rangers warned their new coworkers about? And most importantly, where do these staircases actually lead? Well, join remote viewer John Vivanco and me, investigative researcher Rob Counts, for a truly metaphysical show.
Awesome.
How's it going, John?
Oh yeah, it's going great. New year.
Yeah.
We're cruising. Everything's good.
Yes.
Everything's good.
Everything is good.
Yeah. Trying to find those staircases that everyone's talking about.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one because, I think this is sometimes there's an idea that's just really intriguing and it just starts trending, right? And I kind of put these staircases into this category where, like, what's going on? Like woods, like forests and woods are already kind of mysterious places, but then to find objects or hidden things in the woods in a very enclosed but open space just is a really bizarre kind of concept.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird because most people just stick on the trails too. And, I went in the woods today and I went on the trails, but the amount of space between these trails and just no trails is huge.
Yeah.
What's in the places where there are no trails? I mean, I've heard stories that I go off trail as much as I can. You got to have GPS though. I mean, if you don't have GPS, you can screw yourself. But there are stories, lots of stories that I've heard about people going off trail and finding like little people and strange beings because they don't exist near the trails. So I think, for a lot of this stuff, the weird stuff in the woods thing, you've got to go off trail. You just have to, but you've got to be really careful. You've got to have GPS with you and know your way around.
And I think not going alone, probably another, important.
Yeah, I break that rule constantly. But do you remember?
Yeah, but you're psychic, John. So like,
yeah, that's not going to save me from a Bigfoot sex slave situation. I mean, come on.
Oh man.
But listen,
that just got real really fast.
It got real fast. Do you remember that time when we were out? We were out and we had that weird Bigfoot incident, right?
Yes.
Me, you, Ben, some other people were there, and we just went a little bit off the trail.
Dog? What was your dog's name?
Blue, right?
Blue.
The dog
was shaking uncontrollably. Poor thing.
And barking.
Yeah,
barking at something walking through the woods, right? Yeah. And then we heard that loud crash. It was a loud crash.
Yeah, it was a loud crash, but also the sound of trees being moved, like the really like deep sound of cracking trees as they were being moved.
And who was the person that was singing?
Oh, that was that was I think
she's famous.
Rachel. Yeah.
So Rachel was literally Rachel's singing caused that to happen. It was responding to her singing. Otherwise, it had to have been.
Because we were making all kinds of calls too. And then it was at that point when we were making noise that Blue started to shake
and growl. Yeah.
And then we were like, hey, calm down, buddy. And then all of a sudden you heard something deep. Like it felt almost like the woods kind of like felt a lot closer. Like it was closing in around us a little bit. It was a weird experience.
Well, that's the thing that I've noticed is that I've been in forests where I found these structures, like it's not deadfall. There's nobody that would be going through there at all, like arranging massive, like sticks, like branches, like logs into patterns in the trees. It's the whole Bigfoot structure phenomena. Like I've seen those and I've searched those out and found those. And so one moment you could be walking through that forest and it feels like this like tight closing in, dark Aesop's fable kind of thing, like a German fable happening.
Yeah.
Then you go there another day and it's all open and feels fine. And when it's got that like dark closing in feeling and feels like this like horrid German fairy tale, is usually when you're going to find Bigfoot around. It's like this vibe that they put out, probably what they call ultrasound, the whole frequency that they put out in order to scare off whoever.
And what's strange about what you were talking about is the spaces between trails is almost the same type of concept as what the heck is in the ocean. Like,
yeah,
it's this place that just no one really tries to understand or discover or experiment with. It's largely uncharted territory.
Right.
It's off the beaten path, literally. And and who knows what's in there. I mean, anything could be in there because it's a perfect place to hide.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Especially when you get to the Pacific Northwest. I mean, it just goes on forever with forests, no trails, nothing.
It's the perfect place for Bigfoot to hide.
What I was going to say was, do you remember? So when we were done with that little Bigfoot excursion, and we were off trail just a little bit, and when we were going back to go on trail, it had gotten dark, and most everybody that was with us started freaking out because they couldn't immediately see the trail. Yeah. You remember that? And they started just wandering around going, oh, we're going to be lost. We're going to be lost. We're going to be lost forever, which was a really interesting thing. There's this fear that people have of going off trail, right? I mean, that's like this endemic thing inside of people, at least now, to go off trail in a place where nobody goes is a scary thing.
And you know, it's interesting too, because a lot of the occult and esoteric, more positive arts take place in the woods. Like monks for a long time have gone off into the woods to like cultivate themselves. You'll often hear stories about witches in the woods, doing weird things in the woods, having homes in the woods. Yeah. You know, that and I mean, this is where the story of is it Hansel and Gretel, right?
Hansel and Gretel.
That comes from.
Right, exactly. So I don't know. To me, that's actually the most fascinating part of the woods. That's where you're going to actually find things that you're, wanting to find. So
I think we're going to need to, in a few months when you come out here to visit, we're going to need to make sure you bring your GPS, and we're going to have to go off into some woods and see what happens.
Yeah, we just go off trail.
Yeah. Because Ohio is such a weird place. Actually, the entire Midwest area, as I've been researching more, there's so much weird stuff out here. I mean, there's weird stuff everywhere, but very, very strange stuff out here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. The problem, one of the problems with Ohio is the Ohio dogman kind of thing. Yeah. I mean, I
got a solution for that. Yeah.
Yeah, right. What, your elephant gun?
Yeah. It's my Tremor's elephant gun.
Yeah,
I haven't told anyone about it yet, though. So.
Okay, we won't tell anyone. All right. So
the Ohio Dogman is actually probably another episode here that we're gonna have to
do that one. I mean, the Dogman's just freaky.
It goes up into Canada too. I mean, to be
right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I'd heard that Bigfoot and Dogman fight with each other. So maybe we can get on sort of like I don't know, maybe they have a wrestling match somewhere out in the woods in Ohio area where they're just, I've been in places literally where the trees have been snapped like in a circle in the middle of nowhere, not deadfall. These are like fresh trees where they've been snapped in a circle. And you just wonder what's going on there. Like if that's like how did that happen? Weird Bigfoot fighting ring or something.
I mean, we don't know, right? Like, here's some.
That's actually a Blair Witch Project thing, isn't it?
Lindsay was like, "Yeah, that's Blair Witch Project." Yeah. All right. So how did the stories about the forest come up? Is the thing that's kind of the beginning of our show here, right? Is there was a it's a ranger, I believe, posted something really interesting to Reddit. He's a search and rescue officer for the U.S. Forest Service. And he posted here that he has some stories to tell. Now, I encourage everyone to read through these stories because they're all fascinating, but we're going to hone in on one of the specific stories here because it is all about the subject of today's show here. And that is this last bullet point. I'm going to read through this for everyone at home. It says, "This is the last one I'll tell, and it's probably the weirdest story I have. Now, I don't know if this is true in every SAR, search and rescue unit, but in mine, it's sort of an unspoken regular thing we run into. You can try asking about it with other search and rescue officers, but even if they know what you're talking about, they probably won't say anything about it. We've been told not to talk about it by our superiors. And at this point, we've all gotten so used to it that it doesn't even seem weird anymore. On just about every case where we're really far into the wilderness, I'm talking 30 or 40 miles, at some point we'll find a staircase in the middle of the woods. It's almost like if you took the stairs in your house, cut them out, and put them in the forest. I'll ask about it. Oh, I asked about it the first time I saw some, and the other officer just told me not to worry about it, that it was normal. Everyone I asked said the same thing. I wanted to go check them out, but I was told very emphatically that I should never go near any of them. I just sort of ignore them now when I run into them because it happens so frequently." So that's crazy.
And that's the one that actually started this sort of phenomena, internet phenomena.
Well, or restarted. It's hard to tell. Right. Because I have previous even to this post heard of stories like this. Even before I started doing Edge of Wonder in 2018, when I was researching all kinds of things, I had come across stories like this myself.
Right.
This particular one that you're looking at right now, if you're watching video, is in Germany, and there actually isn't much information about it. Probably safer in German, and we don't speak German. But anyway, we'll come back to that one.
Were those stairs carpeted? I swear those stairs look carpeted in that picture.
They could be. Or
looks
those could be stone too, though.
Could be. Yeah. Well, that looks like a bird watching perch or something.
Yeah, it does. It does.
I mean, you could take it's hard with these photos because they're so, you don't know what the context is around it. It's just this random picture. It's like, what's around there? What's the context? Because people will build these things for bird watching and, hunting stands. I mean, as weird as it seems, right?
That was a very nice staircase just for bird watching, though.
It was. I mean, maybe it's part of a park. I don't know. I mean,
a lot of effort.
Was in Germany? I mean, German engineering.
If anyone was going to do that, it'd be the Germans, right?
Exactly.
But this idea, right, that there could be stairs in the middle of the woods is, like I said, it's kind of like a very intriguing thing. Like,
right.
Well, why are there staircase in the middle of nowhere? Now, a lot of this stuff can be, I think, discussed and written off. Like, okay, well, there was a house that used to be here. The rest of the house burned down, dust covered it. And somehow the staircase was, left. Now, if the house did burn down or if something else happened, those stairs would have been affected by the fire. And oftentimes the accounts of these staircases are, there is a very pristine, clean, almost newly built staircase in the woods that people come across, and it's like, it looks like it belongs in a house, but it's in a very strange, contrary position.
Right. It's so out of place.
Right.
I mean, how many people have actually seen these though? How many people? That's what I'm wondering. And because, when you get into these stories, it's a hard thing to task on with remote viewing in general. We'll get to that later. But when you get to these stories, like it's got that whole creepypasta vibe to it, right?
1,000,000%.
Right. So it really makes me wonder, what truly is going on here, because I'll tell you something, the rake, the picture of the rake, what the rake is, right?
That sounds familiar. What is it?
If you type into Google image search and, type the rake, you'll see the quintessential picture that people throw around as far as what this creature is. It's this like forest ghoul kind of creature.
Oh, that
So,
thing. Yeah.
right. So now the funny
Lindsay's
thing
going to
about,
pull it up for us.
okay, great. So the funny thing about that, yes, that picture right there. So what happened with that picture, for instance? This picture came out, I think,
Really, Michael Phelps after a swim meet, and it was just really dark in next to the pool.
right, exactly. So what happened with this picture is that this was released by the game developer for the game Resistance, because this is part of their game.
Right.
Then literally the next day, a well-known trap cam website did this. They put their logo on it, put a time, and then they made a story about how this was captured on trap cam. Then what happened was all these online newspapers, news agencies started posting this story, and it went viral. So the beginning of that, though, was
a video game.
Part of a video game. And what happened from there is that the creepypasta side took it over and started to create stories about the rake, right? Now, the other weird side of this is that that thing or a rendition of it has been seen and been seen for a long time, right? Where there's smoke, there's fire. And so I think some of this, the creepypasta side where they're, creating fictionalized stories are, like Philip K. Dick in Minority Report and the books that he wrote, sort of remote viewing while they're writing some of this stuff, right? They're pulling from these different sources, even psychic information that they don't know is coming, because, when you get into a creative mind state, you're pulling from the ether, right? So that really makes me think that these staircase in the woods phenomena, even if they are just creepypasta type stories, there's something to them. There's something to them. It may not be exactly what people think because people put these blanket statements on what they are, but there is something to them, it feels like. Well, what is that?
And a perfect example of what you're talking about, John, is Slender Man. I mean,
Slender Man.
They make document, like HBO is a documentary on Slender Man and like what Slender Man is. And yeah, that's real.
That.
And the thing is like, well, what came first, the chicken or the egg?
Right.
Did someone write a creepypasta story and Slender Man was born, or did somebody see Slender Man first, start writing like weird things about it, and then now you've got literally a situation where there are sightings of Slender Man, of like weird, creepy, long creatures that resemble, we don't know if they're like if they're like some type of skinwalker or what it is,
right.
And it has really strange vibes, and I just don't understand why anyone doesn't think to trip that guy when they see him. His legs are so long, he's never going to be able to keep up with you.
Yeah, no kidding.
No, but it terrifies a lot of people. The vision of this thing terrifies a lot of people, and studying a lot of different lore of different cultures and stuff. In this case, the Asian culture really describes how a lot of things come into being in a way that the Western culture does not. That actually, or Western culture covers it in a different way, right? And one of the things that's widely known in Asian culture are objects or things being created from too many people giving it energy.
Exactly.
So you've got a situation now where somebody has conceived of Slender Man. A bunch of people are getting afraid about this thing, and then something is taking on that form out there because it's these ideas are potentially giving it energy.
It's like a tulpa.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Where, a monks, what that comes from Tibet, right? Where a tulpa, where monks will create sort of a evil doppelganger of themselves, right?
Why would you ever do that?
I have no idea. Why would a monk do that? It's a Tibetan monk.
Yeah. Or it might happen. It might actually happen without them knowing,
right?
Potentially, because like when it's the old yin and yang thing, right? When something that good is getting created, something else is opposing it, or and
to balance it out. Yeah, you can't have too much good, can you?
No.
Not here, at least. Well, the thing that I've also seen, I mean, we see this a lot with remote viewing. We see this, the Hat Man. someone called the Hat Man. So I'll just explain remote viewing real
Similar
quick.
to the Slender Man, because
Yeah, similar to the Slender Man, but remote viewing. I'm getting the little nod here. Is basically using a supranormal ability, which is really not. It's something everybody has. It's a sixth sense in really team format, and a very extensive methodology that was developed by Stanford Research Institute, really CIA, and declassified in 1995. And we use that in order to figure these things out. Well, not necessarily figure things out, kind of throw ideas around that can lead you to a conclusion, ultimately. But we see this, and I've seen articles on this as well. The Hat Man, where it's like Slender Man, except this one wears a hat. Right. And we see this in remote viewing. When I train new remote viewers, I would say maybe 2 or 3 out of 10 remote viewers will report to me that in their mind's eye, psychically, after they begin to learn this and get very sensitive, there's this real big uptick right when somebody learns it on extreme sensitivity, like paranormal, paraphysical sensitivity. Numbers of remote viewers have seen this person come up, the Hat Man, tip their hat at them, and then walk away. Not physically, I'm saying, not physically, but in a paraphysical,
or like another dimension or something.
In another dimension. So that's a weird thing that happens. And I don't know what this thing's related to. We've never remote viewed it, or why it happens, but that's like another one of these strange things. It's like, where did this stuff begin? Why is it there? I mean, we do think in terms of 3D physical reality most of the time only, and there is really more of those things around us than we can ever possibly imagine, like ghosty type things. I mean, this room's crowded with them. I mean, they're everywhere. Like there's more of them than us. So I would imagine ultimately that, yeah, I mean, you're going to run into all sorts of really, really strange, crazy manifestations of things, Slender Man included. And these things can make themselves, if they have enough energy, known in the 3D.
Yeah, that's got to be what's going on.
Right. Yeah.
And I think when it comes back to these staircases, his particular account of it's so widely known among them dealing in national parks and stuff that it's like commonplace. They just know to stay away from them. They see them all the time. They don't freak out when they see them, and like life goes on essentially. It's like any weird thing. Like people would be shocked about certain things when they first learn about it, but then over time it becomes second nature. And, like imagine someone from 1200 AD seeing somebody drive up in a DeLorean, like they're going to freak out in the way that we would if we saw a UFO,
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, these staircases in the woods, they're extremely fascinating, but I personally, I want to hear more stories about them.
Yeah.
Like, I want to know, I mean, the internet aside, it's really hard to judge credibility.
Very much so. And most of it is crap.
And most of it is, right. So what are these other stories? What else do we have out there? And are there any other search and rescue people or people who spend time in the woods? I mean, Paulides, David Paulides with the 411. Has he ever mentioned staircases?
I'd love to know, that, because he collects stories from people too.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I mean, really, the first time I ever heard of it was this Reddit article. That was it. I've never heard of that before, which it really makes me wonder. What's going on here? I mean, are we creating this reality as we go? Like, are things showing up as we go forward in reality? Things that weren't there before? Is it like you were saying, this collective mindset? Because I've spent a lot of time in the woods. Doesn't mean those things aren't there. But are we creating this as we go along through internet memes? I mean, is this just meme magic?
Or is it a more ancient concept that's just now being like rediscovered? Because, like, for instance, one of these locations I found in Cambodia, and Lindsay might be able to pull this up for us at some point, but it's called Mount Nam Cullen Pluquer. I think that's how you pronounce. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it, but it's an ancient 2,000-foot long abandoned staircase in Phnom Kulen Mountain in Cambodia's Siem Reap province. It dates back to the 9th or 13th century, and it was used as a way to get to the ancient city of Mahendraparatvata. Sorry, I totally butchered that.
That was perfect. That was actually perfect.
It totally wasn't. And which is now buried under the jungle, right?
Right.
So, some of these staircases could be ancient civilizations.
Oh, definitely. I mean, look at the Chinese pyramids. They're all covered in dirt and trees. You can look at pictures of Chichen Itza.
Yeah.
From the 1900, I think, to right now. And in 1900, it was just a hill covered with dirt. And now it's like amazing, beautiful, pristine pyramid, right? So these things have been covered over the centuries. Absolutely.
Yeah, but
ancient civilization.
And if you're walking through the forest, like imagine walking through the forest. I think of Lord of the Rings a lot because like they're walking through the forest and there's ancient ruins from ancient civilizations that they're amidst all the time. And so some of this stuff would be very interesting to find if you were just like, exploring in the forest.
Oh yeah.
And curious too, like where did this thing lead? Who used this in the past? Why,
Right. Well, that's an interesting thing. I mean, we had some remote viewing data on some kind of old ancient civilization that was underneath or very close to a very large volcanic mountain. I won't say where. And I have been out exploring that realm, that place above tree line, and trying to find any remnants of an ancient civilization that our data has spoken about. But I've yet to find it because in this one area, it's just been tons of landslides. And so, when you get to this type of thing and searching for these things, it can be extremely difficult to find anything because of the debris that's covering it. So, but that's what I'm hoping for, is to find one of these staircases, at least in that area. Not yet. I haven't found anything yet.
So yeah, there's another case here called Madame Chery's Stairs. So this is Madame Antoinette Chery. She's a Parisian music hall singer. She built her castle to be a summer home in Chesterfield during the 1920s. It was not a castle-like structure, but it had the charm of a French chateau with a stone staircase that led to the second level. Madame Chery's parties were the most royal and scandalous of all. And so there's some stairs left, in the middle of the woods, right? But it can be tracked. That's what's not unique about that one. But if you look at these though, look at that. Like
that's creepy.
Seeing that in the middle of the woods,
right?
Gonna stop me.
Yeah, it's like some part of some old vampire castle that you don't want to go near. Yeah. Well, so what kind of experiences do people have around these types of structures? I mean, obviously people are creeped out by them, but what's the predominant experience that is making people creeped out other than the out of place
or themselves even, right?
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, that looks pretty creepy, but I can't imagine being too freaked out about it. I mean, man, there's weird stuff in the woods. People put weird things in the woods.
Yeah. Okay, so there was an instance that was recorded in the Philippines. Okay, now everybody needs to take this with a grain of salt because there really wasn't a date or exactly where given with this account. Okay, but this is a little bit more along the lines of like mysterious stuff around these woods, like you were just asking, like what are people experiencing or whatever, right? So the staircase of missing time. A ranger named Torek was on a task to find missing persons in the jungle. Because the jungles and forest of the area and the Philippines are dense and difficult to navigate, Torek I don't know if his name is Torek or Torkic. I think it's Torek. He decided that he would climb the stairs out of curiosity. So he found stairs. He decides to climb the stairs to have a better view of the forest. The first staircase was made of stone and had decorative carvings. The second staircase that he found was more similar to something someone would have made with the natural stones found in the area. Torkic didn't see any signs of the backpackers missing, but he did spot a vicious stray dog. To avoid the dog, he rushed up the stairs further. He was unsuccessful and finally returned to civilization. Torkic received a news report that was both disappointing and confusing at the same moment. Now, the ranger reaches the station. People at the station told him that he was terminated from his job. He thought he was only out for a few hours, but the truth, as he told it, was amazing. He was on patrol for 5 years.
Huh.
Like it was like a time slip that happened from going up the stairs.
Right. I mean, I can see that.
That's weird.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I could definitely see that. I don't know why. I mean, here I am skeptical of just stairs in the woods, but I'm not skeptical of a guy that does a time slip.
Well, no, I mean, we've heard stories like this, like stories around the Bermuda Triangle of time slips where people are in the plane. It seems like they're on a half hour and hours pass, years pass, whatever it is.
Right. Well, I mean, get to the forest. Get to the forest as well. I mean, I can't tell you, we'll deal with this later, but I can't tell you how much weird stuff I've come across in the woods and remote viewing stuff that's happened in the woods. Right. I mean, I can't tell you. It's just, it's kind of endless. Yeah. You know, people live their lives in city zones, hardly going into those realms, but it's a whole other world, a whole other world. And you could find, well, look at like the Bridgewater Triangle. I mean, look at the Bennington Triangle. Look at these places where you have a lot of phenomena happening. When you get to these locations, people report that kind of stuff. They report time slips. They report portals, creatures, beings. So those are definitely things that happen.
Yeah. So there's other stories too about people getting on stairs and cutting their hand as well, and not.
Well, I think there was one story of a person getting their arm chopped off.
Yeah, it was like his hand got cut off and his hand is still missing. No one's ever found it, and it was from climbing one of these stairs, these random staircases in the forest.
See, I mean, to me, it's just like, what? I mean, is that one of those? Did a Boy Scout write the story for a campfire?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, that's what
It's got to be fake.
So
I mean,
it's got to be. But usually the dumber ones are real. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the ones that like have less like. I get what you mean. Like the punctuation's all there, you know.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm.
It's a weird way to pay back karma. That's
yeah,
for sure.
I know. I mean, I've got my ideas about these things. We've got so much weird remote viewing data on locations that have such a high energy, and I think that what we're looking at here starts to fall into that realm of these locations that have a certain amount of energy to them. You know, I don't really know if every staircase is going to be the same. I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it. I don't think you can put a blanket statement on what they are, you know, because I know people have been saying things like, well, it's an evil pulpit. They're all evil pulpits created by a secret society.
A pulpit?
An evil pulpit. I don't know.
What is
Someone goes to the top of the stairs and like, I don't know, does some satanic ritual thing.
Like an altar or something.
Yeah, exactly. Right. You know,
I haven't heard the word pulpit since I was in my Catholic days. Like,
for some reason I've been using that a lot lately, and I have no idea why. I have no idea why. Rob, you just get back in your evil pulpit.
Your use of the word pulpit is similar to staircases just springing up across the world in random forests.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's a,
We don't.
it's yeah. Those have always been like strange. Like I've always looked at those in churches and been like, why was that built? Like what?
Right. I mean, what if these things are evil pulpits? What if they're like, well, I don't know. I'm not saying evil pulpits, but really like, what if they're some type of pulpit where somebody would go up to speak to their followers, forest people? I don't know.
But
I
you'd
mean,
think there would be a landing and a place to speak, not just like an empty staircase going. Do you know, like going off into nothing?
yeah, maybe it
Like
just fell off.
if they made the effort to drop a random staircase in the middle of nowhere, like at least add like a little place to like give a speech, maybe.
Right, right, right. Well, okay, so are there any places where somebody has given coordinates? Is there like across the United States or the
Yeah.
world, do we have any coordinates of one of
Well,
these staircases?
according to the first Reddit account that we saw, these seem to spring up. They seem to spring up randomly and or move around. And they'll go past them at one point, and then another time they go past the same area, that staircase is no longer there.
Huh.
But they'll find it in another area, and they just are trained not to go near them. Now, there is one story that we're going to get into in part 2 of this random staircases episode or series that we're doing that goes into probably the best documented account of an appearing staircase that's ever been given by a CDC researcher from the 1940s. So maybe when the CDC was actually not too bad. So we don't know what they're doing now.
Right.
But yeah, and we will go into that. And I think also it will be very interesting in part 2 to talk about what exactly the remote viewing data you were able to acquire said about these random staircases. So yeah, so there's another one there Lindsay has brought up. Was this attached to one of the particular stories that we had? Okay, that's just a random staircase, that is weird. Like it's all totally grown up around like the forest.
It looks like it goes up. There's a platform and then goes back down because you can see the handrail. It looks like a handrail goes back down on the other side.
Yeah, that's right.
So I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I mean, again, it's like we don't know context there. Is there is it going over a creek? Is it, what's around there? It's hard to know with a lot of these photographs. And that's what we usually task on. We usually task on photographs as opposed to stories. And, reason why is because stories, sometimes remote viewers can lock into the story of it, whether it's true or not, and just describe the story. So that's why we like photographs. Now that's just going up a hill, I think. That's just going up a hill for
yeah. I mean that one looks like it's placed there to actually use to get up there.
Right. Right.
But okay, so why don't
if that's the criteria, shoot, I've seen lots of staircases in the woods.
Right. Well, this one's interesting because the picture that Lindsay is showing right now is
we viewed that one. Yeah, remote viewed that one.
Yeah, the Etruscan pyramid of Bomarzo, and it's an ancient altar in the thick woods of Italy that might have been used for sacrifices. The pyramid shaped staircase was accidentally discovered in 1990 for the first time. An unmarked hiking trail leads to the pyramids. And so, again, this is believed to be an altar dating back to the 7th or 6th centuries BC. The altar is positioned toward the northwest, facing the direction of the Etruscan underworld gods Dei Infieri. So steps and gutters, possibly to facilitate the flow of blood of sacrificed animals, were carved into the altar. That's really freaky. Like the blood
freaky.
Dripping down. You can see that line that's going across the top there.
Right. We viewed that one, but I'm not going to talk about the data yet.
Okay, we'll get into it.
Wait. Yeah, I'll wait.
Okay, sounds good. So you guys, this ends our first episode on appearing staircases. out of nowhere. We're going to get into part 2, and we'll cover a lot of more interesting information and probably have a lot more interesting conversations about this stuff, because we always talk about so many peripheral things when we get into this stuff. There's so much weird phenomena out there. Well, you guys, thank you for being with us for this episode of Metaphysical. And until next time, stay safe and stay happy.